Hey guys, Kane here. So I did mention a while back that I wanted to do another Xeron formation video since quite a few patches came out and other formations became a tad bit worse. In the same video I will talk about a few mistakes that quite a lot of players are making as well. But first things first, this faction will be countered sometime soon and heavily by the release of a couple of more commanders, since the backline commander units have about 2,500 and more defense. They have similar stats than those of a tank, so some formations that will field a 3-star Judicator and perhaps another ranged unit at the very back may just outright kill Devil without the need of actually countering it. This should happen for, I suppose, the next couple of months, since even now I can pretty much see something like that happening, where my Devil jumps on a Judicator, and my Devil is 520,000 power. So people said Devil gets tanked by a 5-star Awakened Druid. Well, even that Druid having tenacity emblems against my Devil, that Druid disappears in 2 seconds. So it is not that cannot take more than 20% or so damage what can mess up your Devil. It is a high defense target, all due because Devil's damage is not in one explosive burst, but rather in a multiple damage over time skills and basic attacks. So that thing is not a huge issue. While in Judicator's case, I have noticed that my Devil does a lot less damage, even less than to some tanks. So be mindful of that. So moving on to formations, there are currently 2 more or less formations that people can build it with. First one would be about 5 or 6 Infernos, with most frontline being Infernos. I can see it working, but mainly because you add some strong buffers and debuffers in terms of dungeon SR plus units. This may not work against some enemies since they can just delete them in seconds, at least in the Beholder's case. Without them, I am not entirely sure if me fielding all these 6 Inferno units would actually be beneficial. You can also swap out Manticore for Bone Dragon, since it also works and assists Devil to do more DPS in the backline as well. The current core of Infernos are Devil, Efreeti, Pit Fiend, and I suppose Nightmare. Imp is added because he's maxed and decked out in most of the features. It can tank even Devils, which are over 400,000 power, 3-star Awaken, and even casted Assassin emblems. Yes, I know this may sound a little silly to you, but even before I had problems when my Devil jumped on my Kraken's Skeleton Warriors, which are 9x. They just outright tanked my Devil. I guess this can be a similar situation, but instead of just tanking, they can tank and revive quite often. Since with awakening choices I made, Im has double chance to revive, which is about 50% or so. With his next awakened skill, I added 200 dodge to ally units around him, double to Inferno, which would add 400 dodge to most Infernos around. That means even Imp, Demon, and Nightmare would benefit from such. Im has already about 1,000 dodge, so additional 400 puts him to 1,400. But if you're having issues, you can just add 2,000 dodge to Imp only for the first 20 seconds, and that will be pretty overpowered. In terms of the last awakened skill, I put the choice of increasing defense for every Inferno unit on my field, because that is a bit of a safer option, at least in my eyes, and with my current formation that is about 39% additional defense bonus, while already having 2,600 or so defense. And the only thing Imp was missing was tenacity, which I also had thrown on him, but I'm not entirely sure how long this may last. It is cheap to max his potential, and I believe it isn't hard at all to max his Awaken, since not many things are in the campaign shop either. I feel like this is just a temporary power spike of the Imp before it gets entirely outscaled. Also, some people forget that Imp reduces 5 mana with a 5-second cooldown if it is attacked. There are some percentages to proc of course, but since it's 9x, I am pretty sure it more or less would just keep proccing from any tank in front of it. Demon, if you do not feel most other Infernos on my field, it's swapped out because it is just too weak. Even with fielding these Infernos, you can just swap him for a decked out behemoth or another decent tank. And second would be just using 4 Infernos, which would be Devil, Efreeti, Pit Fiend and Nightmare, and just straight up using most other units to debuff the enemy or insanely buff your own, or provide yourself with utility. I have seen even Judicators, Angels, Paladins in Xeron's formation. I have seen people placing Red Dragons in here as well. I am unsure of who they are against or what good it can do. In terms of other 4 units, many awakened tanks reduce damage reduction percentages, defense percentages, some others buff your own unit damage plus crit. In terms of Mermaid, many others like dungeon units burn enemy, can silence them, reduce mana and so on. It would still require the core components of Inferno, while all others just act as buffers or debuffers to Inferno, and more or less able to survive. Because running Inferno tanks more or less makes it so it is a safer option with so many healing, shields and invincibilities and so on, while fielding other units on your field leaves them open to get instantly one-shotted, so be wary of that. At the current moment, most of the 9x, and Imp included, are I suppose being frowned upon, because it is 9x and not many want to field 9x units, because they can just die. And yes, Imp can die in certain situations, like an Assassin Emblem Naga can just kill them enough times so that even revive doesn't trigger fast enough, or too much damage over time, area of effect skills or spells, but in general you can use a similar example to, say, Phoenix. The Firebird was legit useless. When it awakened to a Phoenix, it started doing insane damage to everything. I do not mean Imp is doing insane damage to everything, but more like from being completely useless, he actually became pretty useful. And through the course of the fight, he reduces like 20 mana in 25 or so seconds from the enemy, so not only tanks but also acts as a mini debuffer. I believe I showed and talked about most of my unit emblems in the emblem video just a couple of days back, so there is no point to touch on the same subject again at the moment, since I won't be able to provide anything new. So that aside, I guess I will start with some of the mistakes. First one would be using any other emblem than Path of Assassin on your Devil. At the current moment there are no exceptions, and I do not think any other emblem would benefit as much. Maybe a unit damage percent emblem would assist a bit better against tanks, but not as much as Assassin emblem versus backliners. Awaken skills. Many people have some wrong choices and even on Devil. So the skills you should have on Devil is Dark Authority and Beast Mark if you are using Xeron, and only use Avengers if you are meant to counter one enemy, and you know you will counter him. Dispel plus Silence combo is a very strong weapon, but it can be a double-edged sword as well, since you remove safety for more damage, and Devil can just outright die in seconds. I can just use an example of one of the VIP 15 players on my server. He does this and even has casted emblems on Devil. This is so bad on so many levels against many people, and many actually do this, so be mindful that Dark Authority is a must choice, while Avengers is just to temporarily counter an enemy. I am not sure if people select other Inferno Awakens wrong, but these Awaken skills that I will show on screen are what I actually use, and I do believe they seem to be the strongest of the bunch for these units. Exception for Pit Fiend's 5th Awaken skill, which is deactivated, so the damage does not increase on Devil. So I believe only both of these would provide damage reduction percent, if anything at all. Backup formations, now that's questionable. At the moment Arctic Coercion is the best one on Xeron, and was the best for months. But with the release of new commanders, it may take quite a big fall quite soon. So it is only left to be seen how well it will perform and what else can be a good replacement. But Arctic Coercion does in fact do about 25% HP damage, and even if they have that HP left, it just outright kills them. And it also freezes the enemy for a decent amount of time. And I do believe I usually cover up some of my future plans in these videos. So So I have made my devil 5 stars awaken. I have some pretty decent emblems on my devil as well as he has 50% unit damage, which helps quite a bit against most tanks. So for the time being, I think this is a good stop here and saving diamonds for a Venom spawn to be instantly 6 stars as it just appears. That may take about 2 to 3 months to actually get enough diamonds to 6 star, and yes, I do mean months. So in such a case, most of my expenditure and most other URs will just be ignored, though I was thinking of actually getting the evil sorceress and added as a buffer or debuffer to my Inferno, just to test around and see how decent it would be. And if it is not good enough, well, it can always just go to my Dragon Muteer second formation, and she would only cost like 16,000 diamonds. In terms of Inferno, my guys on my server, if they get proper units and formations, I may even fall from rank 1 in arena and other events. But some people skipped out on Judicator even when I specifically said all formations except Inferno will need it. Doesn't matter if it is only 3 star, so many people's mistakes just turn out to be my win, even if I told them that it would be better for them. It is not like I am hiding good units from my server, it is just that I guess they're making their own plans, and what will that accomplish is up for them to see. Anyways, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to write them down in the comments below. Thanks for watching and stay safe.